Here we are on another episode of the Trash Talk Business Podcast, episode 95. I'm coming to you from the great state of Wisconsin. Casey Bubba Lawrence, as always, is in the chute. This is our weekly opportunity to talk to you about growing, scaling, and building your junk removal dream. Casey, what are we going to talk about today?
I have no clue, honestly. I just logged on and followed the link, and now there's two people in front of me on camera. I keep hearing shit too. It's not me. I can swear to that. I'm thinking it's our guest, Dalton. So far, not a good sign, Dalton. Not a good start at all. But I cannot wait to hear who he is, what he does, and maybe
shuffling papers. Yeah,
maybe he can live up to the hype and stay on the show for a little bit. You know,
we'll see what happens. We'll see how she goes.
I hope I can. All
right, there we go. All right, I think we got our audio figured out. No big deal. That's why we got technicians, and no big deal. Fort Benning. Is Fort Benning still called Fort Benning? Speaking of Fort Benning,
no. The new woke term is Fort Moore.
More like Lieutenant Helmore, Lieutenant Colonel Helmore from Vietnam, more or like more rules and regulations.
Like more rules and regulations because everyone gets their feelings hurt. So apparently, in order to get everyone happy in the world, you have to erase history that you don't agree with, even though through the bullshit of history came good stuff. Like Civil War. Was it bad? Absolutely. But it was a good thing that came out of it. So instead of focusing on the good part of it, they want to erase all of it. And Fort Benning was named after a dude in Civil War.
So Civil War general. Wrong side on said Civil War.
He was on a side that people didn't like. Guess what? I don't think that's right or wrong. I think that's just a side. All right.
That is a side. Somebody called that the losing side, right? And again, war does not determine who is right. It determines who is left. All right.
I like that.
You see what I did there?
I do. Yeah.
Also, I went to war and we did not get the W. We did not leave because we are not left there, and they are still left there. So we could be right all we want, and yet we're not. We are not left. All right, Dalton, you want to be on the podcast? We sent you a link. Now you're on the podcast. What do you want to tell us? What do you want to ask us? The floor is yours, since Casey is woefully unprepared. Okay. I mean, to be fair, he's as unprepared as always, or prepared as always.
Yes. Yeah. I'm pulling a Biden right now. Just kind of showing up. No scripts.
No, he's the opposite. He's very scripted and goes off script. He's only allowed to ask.
Yeah, come on. That's right. Come on, man. Come on.
All right, so Dalton, why the hell are you here? What brings you here today?
So, fellow junk removal business owner, fellow veteran as well, Navy vet.
That's pretty close to being in the military.
Yeah.
Man. Were you on a boat? Were you with the boat people, or
never rode a boat? Never rode a boat. I wasn't a CB.
Never rode a boat, or never rode on a boat? Because there's two different things there. Did you ever row a boat?
I have rode a boat. I have never rode on a boat.
Okay, cool.
What was your MOS? How did you avoid the boat people?
So I was a cryptologic technician in networking. So
cool.
That's
Casey didn't say cool. Like with fucking cryptologic network. It sounds secret squirrel. Sounds good. I'm a truck driver. Casey's the owner.
Rephrase
right?
that.
It's
breakdown
party stuff.
Yeah.
No idea what you just said.
Explain it to somebody that has a 35 on their ASVAB. which is not like giving a 35-year ACT for the civilians listening.
Network defense and infiltration. You're a state-sponsored hacker. That's what you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You should lead with that. Hacker sounds cool.
Yeah.
Sounds really cool, and then you do the job, right?
Here's the deal. If you had been like, I was in the military, I did hacking for the government, no big deal. We wouldn't even made fun of the Navy part because we would have been so overwhelmed. We'd be like, all right, that sounds way above our pay grade.
I'll take the Navy jokes. I'm not in the Air Force, so,
Air Force.
It's not so bad.
I will say between all the branches, the one thing I was jealous of is that Navy and Air Force got the coolest locations, the coolest duty stations. Navy, Air Force.
Yeah, Navy has the coolest duty stations.
Navy has the best chow. I spent a year in Gitmo. Their chow was on point, son.
Yeah, Dory Miller Galley in Djibouti, Africa, man. That's the best galley in the Navy, and I spent
Djibouti.
That's right.
So how long were you in the Navy then?
6 years. I was 6 years
shit.
reservist.
Not as long as
year
in
training.
Djibouti.
That's true. I was 6 years reservist. I spent about a year in training because it's a very long, intense training, and then a year deployed to Africa.
That's
So.
weird that they have that MOS as a reserve gig, right? Like I
Well-
imagine like, you do that much training that you
Mhm.
got to use you, right? I'm a truck driver.
Dude,
I am.
they have special forces, National Guardsmen.
Yeah.
Well,
I
the
mean-
crazy part about it was when I went to sign up, it's 2015. I was going reserves, and looking back now, I probably would rather be a CB, but the CTN came with the $10,000 signing bonus, so I was like, as a reservist, I'll take it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, shit. You were fucking 20 and didn't know that $10,000 wasn't that much money, right?
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
oh,
I
yeah.
actually ended up getting paid like $6,000. That was pretty much after taxes.
Yeah.
that's what you get.
Well, it's funny. I did a sales presentation earlier today, and they were talking about, doing junk removal and how this fire department took a mattress, and they were going to burn it as part of a training, and they started burning the mattress, and money came out. It was like $10,000, and the people telling the story, like the one lady, like her eyes lit up, and I was like, the way that her eyes lit up, I was like, oh, that is the eyes lighting up of someone that's never had $10,000. Because
Yeah.
I know when I first started business, I'm like, oh my God, $10,000 is amazing. I remember a couple of years ago, I won $10,000 on this TV show. Awesome. And people are like, oh my God, what are you going to do with the money? And I was like, well, my rooftop unit, my air conditioner and furnace went out on my building. And just so happens it was $10,500. And so all my winnings were gone before I had them.
Yeah.
And even the military, right? Like,
I'm going to use this 10 grand down and get a $500 loan.
Correct. Yeah. That's pretty
what it
much
feels like.
But even the military, it's like, okay, let's break this down Barney style, right? You get a $10,000 bonus, right? Lump sum, doesn't matter. Uncle Sam gets his cut. So now you got on to 6,000. And it's for 6 years. So basically it's less than $100 a month. That's what that $10,000 is equates to, less than $100 a month.
Mhm.
Like you could pick up one shift making $15 an hour, one shift a month, and it would be more than, oh yeah, I might be fucked here. Right on top of the gig. So that's it. The concept of money changes once you have it and once you lose it. Right. Like
So speaking of money, Dalton,
Mhm.
tell us about your business, and do you still think that 10 grand is a milestone? I mean, if you do, that's awesome, because I miss those days. Those were good times. We've talked about it before.
Life was
Those
good.
are the best of times. When 10 grand is a big deal, you're like, this is pretty cool.
The good old days.
10
we call them.
10 grand is a milestone for me at this point. Would be like probably 10 grand a week would be the next milestone. Not consistently, that would be a record. I think the most we've made maybe we have broken 10 grand in a week.
You gotta know
one
your
of our best
numbers.
weeks.
I know the first week I broke 10 grand. It was the week after Thanksgiving, 2016. It was our biggest week we ever had. It was our first time. We hit like 10-4, and I was like, we're fucking rich. Now
to the moon.
To the moon, to the windows.
I can look on
Now,
Housecom Pro and tell you exactly what it is.
oh, you can look on Jobber too, which is the official. I ain't mad at you. I also know that now if I have a $10,000 week, I'm out of business, right? Like that's the difference, right? And to Casey's point, like it is beautiful when it's like, yeah, that's the fucking goal. Because then when you hit that goal and you hit it a couple more times, you're like I couldn't tell you my second $10,000 week because it didn't matter. I hit it once. Now it's like that's the fucking line, and then that's the line, right? And again, this is coming from a place when I first started in business. I was like, if I can do $10,000 a month between my brother and I, we're like, that'd be fucking awesome. Like that was mind blowing when we first got into business.
I thought the same thing when we sold the
That was the
business
mark.
and I got into demolition.
Yeah.
I was like, all I need is one mobile home a month. Like that's pretty freaking easy.
Yeah.
And then I started doing it and I was like, holy shit, this sucks. Like this is hard, you know? And it's because that $10,000, the reason I think it's such an important milestone in actuality, it's not that much money, right? When you really look at the grand scheme of things, it's not that much money, but why do we think it's so hard to achieve? And then once we achieve it, it's kind of like anything. Once you achieve it, you're kind of like, all right, what's 20,000 a month look like? What's 50,000? And then you start reaching those big numbers to where you kind of set yourself up to where if you go down below a certain point, now it's actually like, I'm in trouble. Like my business is in trouble. It can no longer even sustain, you know? And I remember we had to look at before when we first started, we had to look at how much money we were making. And then when it all shook out with accounts receivable and payroll, we're like, wow, like we felt like that was a great month. And we're close to doing six figures. And then we're actually over. Like we're actually upside down because we spent more money than we made. And you're like, well, how do we stop that? Because in the beginning, you don't think about it. You're just like, go, 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 go. I'm gonna do all the jobs. But then you start getting a ton of jobs. This is what a lot of people don't understand too, by the way. Not to toot our own horns, but when you hit, when you do almost 100 grand in a month, you may think, oh, wow, this guy knows his shit. Well, yeah, that's good. But it also could be the product of not being organized, not knowing how to market correctly, and not knowing how to conduct operations correctly. Because we were in a situation to where we made like, I don't know, $85,000, but we spent 90. And we're like, how did that happen? So that $10,000 mark, the reason why it's so cool is because look at it that way. Let's say you made 10 grand and you spent 11. That doesn't sound that bad. But when you're like, I spent $90,000 in a month, holy crap.
Yeah.
That's a lot, So I think it's an important milestone for sure.
Well, that's something that's going to come, I do believe, this year. This is our
hell
first
yeah, it
full
will.
year in business, and I'll just go ahead and give a brief kind of dissertation testimony
Yeah,
of the
go ahead.
business, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
And lay it all out. That way, you kind of get a full picture of what you're working with. First and foremost, I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. That's always going to come first, and I'm here to share that. That's my purpose in life, so to speak. But here I have this junk removal business. And it all started from a point of desperation. As you hear some people's stories, I got a job with a buddy. He had a dumpster rental business. I was his only employee. He had that business now for about 4 years. And I didn't know anything about any of this world. Maybe he'd been to a dump twice. Back in home in Eastern Kentucky, where I was born, you're more likely to burn trash than you are to take it to the dump. Not good, but you grow up. That's what you know. But I was working for him, and as anyone who would rent a dumpster would ask, well, how much will you charge me to fill it instead of just renting the dumpster? And he would have me go out and fill the dumpster, right? And if God gave me anything, he gave me an entrepreneurial mind. And it's not a bad thing to sit there and say, oh, these margins are actually really plausible. This really is really viable for a business. It's just a lot of labor. And I can work. That's not a problem. Get ourselves off the ground. So I started, and this is a testimony here. I started. I didn't have a truck. I didn't have a trailer. I was running dumpsters for this guy. I just had my wife's car at that point. We had sold my truck to get by, and from that point, my boss actually ended up telling me to be his competition. It was kind of weird. He was like, "You should start a junk removal company, right?" And now his main thing is dumpsters, but he knew kind of where I was headed, and maybe it was just a God thing, but he said, you should start one. So I did. And that was back in September of 2022. I just filed the LLC then, right? And then pretty much right away got spun up with a website. And then before I did my first job, got my insurance, my general liability. And I cut a deal with him, and I told him I'd pay you 25% of the gross on the job if you let me use your dumpsters to do it, and I'll pay fuel too. It was a terrible deal for him, and it was a terrible deal for me. And I used that to kind of grow to a point where I bought his old beater truck, the Black Pearl, this 2004 LLY GMC.
Love that name, by the way.
Thank you. He made it. It wasn't me. But she was just beat all to crap. Hadn't run in 8 months. Didn't know if it was going to run, and he told me $2,000. Well, I didn't have $2,000, so he took $250 out of my paycheck every week, and I wasn't making that much. So that $250 hurt for the next 8 weeks. But I got that thing. I don't know if guys know what an ECU is, engine control unit. But it had 3 plugins, and I plugged in the third plug-in, put in a new battery, and it fired right up. And put the set of used tires on it. Went to the dump trailer spot. I didn't know that I wanted a dump trailer. I wasn't going to start with utility. And I said, Lord, this not be your will. And mind you, I don't have the best credit, right? I don't have money in the bank. This is not your will, God. I don't want it. I don't want to be a part of it. Lord, just shut me down now so I don't get my hopes up. Boom. qualified for financing. Got the dump trailer.
I will say it's a very low bar when it comes to trailer financing.
It
Just so
is.
everyone
It
knows,
is.
it's not like
It is.
Oh,
like,
no,
you
no,
don't have to
this
technically
way.
be credit
Here's the deal.
savvy to get a trailer, so that's good. But
here's what I understand. You go to get a $20,000 truck, right? $25,000
Yeah.
truck. You'll get denied up, down,
Yeah.
left, right.
Yeah.
You
Oh, yeah.
walk in for a $10,000 brand new sparkling trailer. They're like, "Cool. Do you want it today or tomorrow?" And you're like,
Yeah.
"What
Yeah.
about finance?" They're like, "Yeah, you're good." Like if you
hey,
drove
for
in with a
$100
truck,
extra, we'll even put your logo on it in spray paint.
yeah,
Yeah.
like if you can show up with a pickup truck, you can have a trailer.
Mhm.
Now I don't know
Yeah.
if it's a depreciation or because it's a piece of
Mhm.
equipment. Every time
I'll tell you
guys
why,
are like,
Andy.
Why
I
is
know the
that?
inside scoop.
Ooh, whoa. Hot.
You just said it.
Yeah.
So
Depreciation.
the dealer,
retain value.
yeah, the depreciation insane, but also there's about a 56% markup on every single trailer. So
Oh, so
they
got room.
wholesale.
So
Plenty
$5,000.
of
So a
room.
$10,000 trailer is $5,000. So if they repo it and then resell it for $7,500, they're
good.
already.
Oh yeah.
This is what drives me nuts when guys are like, I'm gonna get a utility trailer, and then I'm gonna get another trailer, and then I'm gonna get a dump trailer. And you know why? Because I did that. I went with a shitty wooden trailer, and then I got the steel trailer, and then I got the dump trailer, and all the while I was like, wait, I could have just bought a dump trailer from the word go. Now our
Right.
model's a little different, but we had enclosed trailers in box trucks before we had a dump trailer. Because I was like,
Yeah.
I don't need, So yeah, for
You're
guys
also
out there,
you were teasing. You were also flirting with moving too.
I wasn't flirting with it. I was balls deep, baby.
I'm talking about in the beginning.
Oh, I
You
was
were
all
doing
in.
some
No, we
small
were
moves.
oh yeah, we were at one point, I'd say moving was close to 40% of our revenue. Our second summer, we were all in.
Yeah.
Now the problem was it was tons of our complaints, and the more and more we did junk removal, we're like, wait, there's a lot more money in junk removal than there was in moving. The problem we had with moving was we'd be booked up like every Friday, Saturday with moving, and then all of a sudden on Thursday we'd be getting calls for junk removal. It's like, man, I'm doing this $500 move job, and I could be doing a $1,500 junk removal job in about the same time frame. That's what.
Dalton, where are you at right now?
In like location wise,
Yeah.
It's
Dayton,
not
Ohio.
undisclosed. Okay, I thought it was undisclosed.
Oh, Ohio.
Yes. I'm in
Okay.
Dayton, Ohio. But
Dayton's pretty huge.
Yeah. I mean, we're
Dave Chappelle lives over there. Yellow, what's that town called? Yellow
Springs.
Spring. Dave Chappelle lives in Yellow Springs.
Yeah.
I drove by his house. That's we ain't kicking it or nothing. I a local.
Yeah,
a
I
local
probably
drove me
have
down
too. I just haven't paid attention. I just
Yeah.
Yellow Springs. That's like the Austin, Texas of Ohio. It's the weirdest place ever.
Yeah.
So super weird.
You know what? Dave Chappelle, one of his special talks about why he loves it living in Ohio, because he loves white women that don't wear shoes with dirty feet.
Oh Lord. But no, I get the dump trailer, right?
Oh yeah, dump trailer. Get back on our
And
story.
this is my first real piece of finance. The rest of it's all been cash. So it's a scary time. But Lord let it happen, and all of a sudden I'm doing side jobs. This is just part-timer, right? And I've got the truck and trailer, so I'm not getting Scrooged on the 25% to my boss, and I'm trying to make it work because he's slow, so I'm able to pick up stuff as it happens. Just advertising on Facebook and Craigslist, just getting the jobs I can, just getting my feet wet, right? So I'm moving along, and it starts to pick up, and round about April time frame, I'm my guy, my friend that hired me. He's like, look, man, I know your head's not really in the game right now. I know you got this other thing going. Just like the Bible says, it's hard to serve two masters. And I've always wanted my own thing. I tried before and failed. So this was really turning into something. Margins were there. It was only me. So all the cash I just reinvested back into the business. So he said, look, I'm going to give you an easy out. There's a guy who wants the job. Are you going to run another season for me full time, or are you going to go do your own thing? And a lot of prayer, a lot of time, and God just showed me. He said, I wouldn't have given you all this, if I didn't mean for you to take it. So I moved forward in that. And our first month in April, it was just me, and we did $20,000. And yeah, full time.
Just like just you, or like you and a helper?
Just me.
So you're getting on the business end of a couch and you're figuring it out how to get it through that doorway.
Yes, I've done a lot of figure it out jobs.
Y'all
And
have basements? Y'all got basements in Dayton?
Oh yeah, lots.
Okay,
of
all right.
basements,
I wish
lots of
because it's like right on the because Kentucky have basements. Where do basements stop?
Basements where I came from, nobody had a basement because everybody built
It's more of a
on
storm
stilts.
shelter in the South. The crossover must be up north because we have storm shelters up to like Kansas and Nebraska, but
I'm
basement
talking
is different.
I'm talking like Milwaukee. Like if you have a slab, that's I mean 1 in 100. Like everyone's got a basement, and like your basement's like most people I know, half your basement or better is like living area. You know, like not in my basement. I got a big basement. I got a pool table down there, ping pong table, completely unfinished, and yet it's like I could finish it and have a whole nother bedroom and bunch of stuff versus like crawl space or a. All right, I'm gonna see.
Is there usually any off-topic question here? Is there any kind of air circulation in basements normally, or is that extra, like to get some central air going?
Oh no! Oh yeah! If you most basement, that's normally a forced air because we have forced air heat. You got the one duct that goes down the middle. Right, normally it runs parallel with your I-beam right down the middle of your basement, and it shoots it out.
Oh, okay.
You know, and then depending on how your ceiling is, you either do a drywall ceiling or a drop ceiling, depending on what's going on down there. Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's the same up here, Andy. It's not 1 in 100 as far as slabs. There are more slabs, but typically any home that was built that's older is almost never going to be a slab foundation. It's going to be that basement style, especially the really old. Because Dayton's actually a really old city because we run along the river. There's houses as old as in the 1700s here. So that's not common. It's more like the 1800s is much more common, but we run along the Ohio River, so it's extremely the Little Miami feeds into the Ohio, something like that. Modern commerce and trade back in the 1700s and 1800s, all that sort of stuff.
Here we go. We're going to take a brief break from the story of Dalton's success to bring you our official sponsor, the single family home started in 2013 map of basements. So the old West Central, 84% of new homes. New England, 87. I would not have guessed this. 71% here in Wisconsin. And then here is your boy, Big Casey Bubba Lawrence, less than 1%. Y'all are non-basement having individuals. Like
we can't do it, man. The dirt moves too much.
Yeah. United States on the whole, 30%. That math don't math. That you know why? Well, yeah, it probably does math because the amount of people down south. There's nobody in like this 52% in the mountain don't matter. And then California. Yeah, between California and Texas, that's how you drive down that number. This looks like an election map. And we need like
and also California, it doesn't account for all the homeless people.
Right. They don't have basements. That's probably why it's 4%. There we go. For you guys listening only, we were looking at a map of where the basements are, and basically they are in the upper Midwest and New England. I would not have guessed that New England was so basement friendly. I didn't have any reason to believe one way or the other. All right, Dalton, back to the origin story.
Yes, back to the origin story. So April, right? So God kind of gives me confirmation I'm going full time. Everything's working out. And that first month we do 20,000, and I very soon realized like, hey, this is not sustainable for me to try to keep lugging couches up basements by myself. And the homeowner awkwardly looking at me like, you sure you don't need some help? And I'm like, no. So I get a guy, just by happenstance, met a guy with really great worker. But eventually he moves on in about the August time frame. And from there, from April to August, September timeframe, we're having consistent about $25,000 months. Pretty consistent. That's with about $1,500 to $2,500 Google ad spend. So there is a cost to that, right? That wasn't all just from Facebook and Craigslist. And then trying to get some more commercial clients. But basically, I'm just figuring it out in this time. Don't know what's going on. Not really branded. I have T-shirts and stuff like that, but as far as the truck and the trailer, they're not really branded like I want them to be. And just slowly figuring everything out, figuring out payroll, figuring out all this stuff. He eventually moves on, and I end up actually hiring, not just kind of like calling on a guy that I've seen before. 3 people, fired one the next day, but had 2 really good guys. And I got off the truck, which was obviously a huge milestone.
Oh yeah.
Because when you've been lugging drunk, during the busy season and you've been doing a lot of it by yourself, it's tough. So really excited to do that, and also to get a part of the networking groups, in the area that I could not take part in before. No H7, no BNI, no Chamber of Commerce, none of that, because I'm busy on the truck.
What's H7?
It's like BNI, just a lot cheaper, and
Is it nationwide?
I do believe so. Yeah, you might have one in Milwaukee. I'm not positive. It's big here, so I would definitely look into it. But it's a lot more affordable than BNI, and they're not nearly as pushy. Around here, BNI is pretty pushy. As far as the requirements and things you must do, things you have to do, all this sort of stuff, which I need to get into. But
I'm gonna find a meeting. Ohio.
So
Ohio, Indiana, Texas, South Dakota. Those are your opportunities for H7. Actually, I don't think I started in Ohio.
I've never heard of it though.
Ohio, the only place that's in Ohio, to his point, Austin, stay weird, Austin. And then it's in Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Indianapolis, and Rapid City, South Dakota. Rapid City, South Dakota.
So
there you go.
That's interesting. I like that. So 2 interesting facts, Dalton.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we kind of briefly touched on Fort Benning.
Yep.
The name change, the reason. Did you know the founder and name of Dayton, Ohio is after Jonathan Dayton, who was a representative out of New Jersey, one of the signers of the Constitution.
Are you reading this?
And he owned 55 slaves. Yet,
are you just
still a Dayton, Ohio? That's all I'm saying.
Are you just randomly reading things on the internet to prove your political
resources?
Points?
One was written.
Oh, hold on. You got a KNS hat? You got a KNS hat?
I did. That was my next thing. I want to do a shout out to Spencer.
Oh my God, he's sponsoring 2 episodes.
Dalton,
yes, sir.
This guy's not one of your competition. He's out of Minnesota.
Minnesota.
But if you were to send us gear, I'll wear it. 100%.
Now, Casey wasn't here last week because he had the pneumonias allegedly, and so we already had an officially sponsored KNS hat. Again, it doesn't take much to buy us love. If you send us a box, actually, this hat that we had the lady on the show. I already forgot her name. I do have her business card, and I gave it to my marketing company. So next time we need swag, I know
I have to share you the origin story of the name. But I'm going to finish up.
Finish up.
We're getting there. Oh, yeah. Distractions are part of the show.
You're good.
You're a listener. You know that.
There's
2 paths in the woods, and we'll take both.
So anyway, finish out with those 2 guys. Start doing a lot more networking. Really trying to build up a lower customer acquisition cost. Trying to build up, commercial clients. Trying to build up business clientele. And really treat them well to get them through the door and to make those big months. We have a couple that we, mainstays that we've used. One is Caring Transitions. They're a franchised downsizers, senior living transitions, and then a local property management company. And I was going to have this pulled up, but let's see here. I keep track on which.
What's your current customer acquisition cost? Blended,
Not blended. I keep it separate. My current one from my P&L from December, my customer acquisition cost on Google, you're going to throw up. It's $200.
That ain't throw upable. I mean, I've seen worse.
But
it ain't good.
Yeah, it's not good. Then the summer, it was incredible. I guess it's just wintertime. I don't know. Google local services were about $195. And then for Craigslist, I actually didn't get any Craigslist customers, surprisingly, but it does work really well for me, and it's a really low CAC. Like November, I had 3 customers for the $115 I spent, and that's $38 a customer. So really good, and I made $1,100 off that $115 spent. So it's about a 10x return, which I'll pay for.
I like it.
But where was that? I was going to talk about. Independence Property Management. I shouldn't have said their name. Wow, I'm giving out my free game.
Snap!
Anyway, local property management company. They're local, but we made about $15,000 off of them in the last 3 months.
Honey hole.
And then yeah, exactly. So if I could get some more of that, I'm focusing on that Dream 100 client list. Those. But Carrying Transition as well, they've produced really well for us. And if
Do
I
you
could
have
get
a
some,
current? Do you have a current customer count, total clients?
yes. Carrying Transitions was 18,000. My current customer count is 556. So
Okay.
um,
556, you said?
yes, sir.
Okay.
So what do you? What software are you looking at right now?
House Call Pro.
Okay. So in there, I'm just kind of confused on your customer acquisition cost right now. But
So that's for the month. That's for the month.
okay.
For,
Okay.
That changes
like,
wildly.
yeah,
That's
because
not
man,
something-
Correct. So that's why it's good to have a blended average, because then you can see
Mhm.
things that are at, above, or below average. That's
okay.
it. Right. Like,
Okay.
that's why you want to have the 556 divided by all marketing costs ever. Right. Like that's
Mhm.
that's right. And as you scale, it'll
Mhm.
continue to go up and up and up and up and
Yeah.
up. Right. And then eventually, about the time when you get to where you need to be scale wise in your business, then you start getting repeat customers. You start realizing where the dollars are that aren't, being utilized correctly, and you redeploy those dollars to where they are being used correctly. And about that time is when you start spending less money on marketing, generating the same or more revenue. That's what Casey would.
Well, you can also find get your sweet spot too. Like you can go after, hey, it looks like my half trailer is my most profitable or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
that's where you can find that, and you can actually start attacking that metric. Hey, how do I get more of these?
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm getting 20 calls a week for minimums. How do I get them to go up?
Like
So-
I know, for example, my average customer is $540. That's blended across the board, $540 ticket. I know it's double that when it's a referral from a realtor. So I know I can spend twice as much money on a realtor than I can anybody and everybody off of Google, because my average customer, Google, and my total average customer are almost within 10-15% of each other at all times, because that's my average customer. And I know Facebook is always a below average customer. And then I look at, well, why that is. And the reason is, I'm not below average on revenue, or I'm sorry, not below average on margin, not below average on the person themselves. They are below average on revenue. And a lot of reasons they're shopping, or you're creating the demand. They're scrolling. They're like, oh, I do need junk roll. You're right. I want to get rid of a few things. So it's a single item up to a quarter trailer, maybe a half trailer on a good day. While when you're moving, it's the whole house. Now the whole house might only be a quarter or half trailer, or it might be 20 trailers, right? And it's a wide range. Most people aren't going to Facebook as their first line of defense when they have a large project. They're asking people they know, they're networking, or they're Googling. So understanding understand your blended customer acquisition cost, then you can see which ones are worth it and which ones aren't.
Okay.
Have you tagged your repeat customers in House Call?
No, I have not.
So
I haven't utilized tagged as much other than just marking my business clients.
Okay, so the reason this is what got me hooked on House Call. Now I know Jobber does it now, but what I'm saying, when we first started using House Call Pro, a lot of the stuff, was pretty new in the market with House Call. So we started utilizing it, and that's when we decided, hey, and I don't know how long you've been using it, but in the beginning, it was very, very broad for service-based industries like plumbers, electricians, you name it. Well, we were like, hey, we don't need half of this shit. We don't have inventory. So they actually designed us a junk removal template, and it worked really well. But the reason I like the tagging so much is, for one, like I was in a franchise, so I had zip codes, and a part of my territory was, I think each territory had about five zip codes. Of those zip codes, I think 3 or 4 of them were higher echelon type of clients. They were in the upper class, right? They made some money, affluent area. Right. So I would tag them. What zip code? Hey, if it was 76092, I would tag that, and that way, then I can start doing my numbers. Hey, what city am I doing the most amount of this many jobs? I would also tag the trailer size. I would tag if the job was a bobcat, like a skid steer job, because then I could track everything. Hey, how many jobs am I doing with a skid steer? that's what helped me get to a point to purchase a skid steer and get out of renting it, because I got to the point, I looked at the numbers and I was like, we can now justify buying a skid steer because now we're actually losing money from renting one so many times. Now, the other side of that, this is what I would encourage you to do, because this is the perfect time to do it. At least I think so. Right into your first full year. Your repeat customers are your biggest fans. And I actually believe, like me and Andy have talked about this, I don't like discounts unless you've earned them.
Yep.
My customers that have used me have earned a discount.
That's
what I would even do, even with residential customers, I would say, hey, after three jobs with me, I'm going to put you on discount pricing in perpetuity, like forever. And I would tag them as such. And then after a certain amount of jobs, I would send them a referral thank you, whether that's a gift card, just out of nowhere. Hey, you know, I really appreciate your business. If you give me business from someone else, because I'm done asking you for money. Now I need you to help me get more money, because after a certain amount of time, you need to stop selling, right? To that same person. So then you say, hey, look, if someone books with me, I'll get you $20 to the local department store or whatever. And now when they send that in, guess what? I know it's going to sound crazy. There's another tag. Boom, tag from this customer. You track those tags. When it comes down to customer acquisition cost, you start seeing some customers that are super low. You're like, why is that? Oh, it's because I'm getting a ton of business for free.
Yeah.
Pretty much because of that one repeat client. That's kind of why I didn't ever get into Google Ads as much in the beginning.
Well, that's really beneficial. I'll have to start using that tag function because I like the discounts in perpetuity for those repeat clients.
Man. Data is your best friend. If you could, I know it. So before Facebook changed things, ask Andy. You probably remember this, Andy. Remember when Facebook used to be real creepy on how much you could actually profile people?
Oh yeah. You could
get to
yeah
exactly who you wanted to, right? But it was very invasive. Well, we use it to our benefit when we were hiring, but the same can be said with tagging. You can actually get down to the point and say, looks like my best customer is a woman in her, mid 30s to mid 50s, mainly mid 40s, with a couple of trophies at home. How do I market to just them more? Because the other customers are going to be on a slow drip, right? They're going to happen anyways. But if I'm going to spend money, why wouldn't I spend my money like a sniper shot, directed straight at the targets I want to hit?
Right. That's that's really good. I'm taking notes here. And I want to say, Andy, your lunch idea, that carrying transition customer, that came from a lunch with a lady that I had never met. And we just sat down and got to talking, and but at the end of the year, December, finished everything up. Mind you, I went full time in April. So before then, it was just kind of weekends and when I could get the job done, sort of thing.
Yep.
Small time. I think February I made like $1,900. So at the end of the year, we made $200,000.
You brought in 200. That's a $300,000 year. I mean, right? If you blend that, right? If nothing changes, you'll do 300 this year because your first 90 days you weren't at scale, right?
And we really aim to get. I want to be at double. My goal is 400,000. If we get 360, I'll be real happy. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Obviously, I don't know what I don't know. I haven't been there yet, but like you said, if we would have ran that whole year, we could have easily hit 300,000. And the problems with the learning curve and the growth, and growth sucks cash. It's like they say. So
ain't that be about the truth? Yes, that is correct. Growth does suck cash.
Just getting getting a truck after doing away with the old Black Pearl. She had seen her days, and all the maintenance that comes along with buying used vehicles. So we hope to next year build up enough cash to put a solid down payment on a brand new junk truck.
Dude, write it down. Don't hope about it. Just make a plan to do that.
Casey, you're stealing bits out of my book. Hope is not a plan. I read about it in my book. Hope is not a plan.
Well, it's true that, I mean, regardless of what Andy says, Andy just likes to talk and then hear himself. He's like, oh shit, I'm a genius. Now look, the one thing I can tell you, Andy knows.
I quoted my guy Brad Herta that hope is not a plan. A plan is a plan, because then my thing is, okay, now we change the word from hope to plan. And then my first question is, all right, cool. What's the first step?
Yep. And that's
a plan. A hope, right?
First step is write it down. For me,
write it down.
Write it down.
Write it down.
Right.
And then break it down Barney style. It's a rock. How do you break it down into pebbles?
And we have that in our performa, right? We have 5 projected performas between absolutely awful, we go out of business, to like absolute insanity, great year ever.
This is where I do differ with. This is where I do differ with Justin about his. He does like 3 pro formas and he has 4 or 5 that need him. Right?
Yeah.
I have 1 pro forma. That's it. Yeah. I have 1 pro forma. This is the plan, and then I know like now I will do significantly different ones. And yet, once I build all the pro formas, I go, this is the one we're going with. That's it. And I do a mid-year review. If we are way off track, I will reshoot certain things June 1. But that's it. It is a one-time mid-year review. The problem when you have 5 different tracks is, I mean, the way I build my pro forma is I can change one number because I change my top line revenue, and it changes everything. And then I can tweak a few percentages, and it tweaks everything. I am anal when it comes to my pro forma.
Well, that's how you build these out as well. This is
right. I can shit up. Yeah, I can
Right.
I can say, hey, here's my $2 million one. Here's my 2.25. Here's my 2.5. Here's my 2.75. Here's my 3. Here's my 4. If I land some contract that I didn't even know was available. Right. Like,
right.
But that's more of a guessing game because are you familiar with the word azimuth, Dalton? I don't know if y'all did land nav in the Navy or if it was water
I did an
nav.
ROTC way back.
Oh, you were a ROTC kid. You were an officer.
Yes. No, JROTC, not like.
All right, you missed the drop. All right,
I'm not a no, man. I don't trust the no. I don't.
So azimuth. The reason why azimuth is so important is that's the line of approach, right? Like that's where I'm going. And when you're doing land nav, after so often and the distance, you can use your own metric. Usually we did I don't know, I think it was like 100 feet. You'd always keep checking your azimuth to make sure you're on azimuth or you're off azimuth. Yeah. So the same thing could be said about a pro forma. If you look at it, like Andy said, middle of the year, you look at where you're at and you adjust to where you're pointed, right? Like, hey, we're a little off track. We just need to adjust back on azimuth.
Yeah.
So what Justin does, it's not a right or wrong way. For me, I think what you're doing is 2 things. You're creating more work for yourself. And the second thing I would be wary of is creating nervousness where you shouldn't.
So like, I don't disagree with I don't agree with having 3 to 5 pro formas. What I say is once I once I shoot the target, that's all, that's the only one I communicate to anybody else. And that's the only one I look at. Like even the other day, like Emmy goes, which pro forma, because we're doing our KPI meeting, she goes, which pro forma are we going off of? And that was a great question because I'd been talking to pro formas. I was like, nope, this is the one we're going with. And there was a reason behind it. She goes, all right, bet. And then that was it. Like that was I like what Justin says though. Justin does the bottom of the barrel. When do I pull the plug?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to lose my house. So again, I don't.
Well, it's hard to do that when you're.
I don't like looking at all of them.
I mean, I think so because if you think about it, your bottom of the barrel is moving.
I know my second year in business, I said I was going to do 500,000. We did 904, right? We were beating. You know what I mean? So we were beating the pro forma. So I was like, shit, I don't know nothing, right? And for me, the percentage is still kind of checked out. The thing is, our first year we started in June. Second year, which was our first full year, I said we're going to do 500, and I was wildly off because I didn't think big enough, right? And now last year we missed our mark. We missed our goal on the pro forma, and there was several contributing factors to that. I fixed some of those problems and got rid of some people, and now this year we are already beating our pro forma on the year, even though it's more aggressive than it was last year.
So I think the idea with the multiple performance for me is exactly what you guys said in the beginning with the truck, to have a plan. This tracks my cash so that I know when I'm ready. Because like if I'm doing terrible, awful, no good year, we're not going to get a truck. It's just not going to happen. Now the likelihood that happens, that I have $180,000 a year when I had a $200,000 year before, didn't start until April. Probably not going to happen.
Hey,
But that's
what-
just
what are-
changing the numbers. But now if I go to those good years or those best years, I can go from okay, I can get one in May, or then I can go and get one in April, and then I
Yeah.
can get one. It just tracks that cash for me to be able to be like, okay,
Oh.
we're on track. It's not really so much as like you use one and stick to it. It's like now I was projecting in January, all across 5 different performers that my very best month would be like 22,000, because I know as soon as it gets cold and they're in Ohio, and Andy, you can attest to this,
Mhm.
when it's 6 degrees outside, nobody's calling,
Nope.
Mhm.
Yeah,
nobody's
that
calling. So
you'll have a good week that week because you already got jobs booked. The next
Right.
week is poo poo.
it's
Mhm.
awful. So I knew we were going to have some down times, and we ended up doing 20,000. My worst case scenario was 13 grand. I'm on the good side of that. So I'm
Yeah,
happy.
yeah.
I'm real
Yeah, yeah.
happy. We're keeping guys running. We're keeping payroll up. So
So
I'm happy with that.
two things. One's a question, one's a statement. How
Mm-hmm. Yes,
many
sir.
guys is it 2 guys still, 1 truck? Is that the current operation?
No, actually, we had 2 guys. I just fired one of them. My
So
first
you,
fire.
so are you back on the truck?
Oh, congratulations!
Back on the truck.
Okay. So okay,
It happens.
pencil in, Taylor, pencil in profit first. We're going to talk about that
Yes.
here in a
Mhm.
second. Okay.
So I've read
Let's-
it.
okay,
Justin
well-
put me on to that, and that's something that
Do
changed,
that
of
now.
course.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Do that
I
now, and now we're not talking. Now we're not talking about if this happens, I get the truck. No, I will get the truck because I already put the money aside.
Mhm.
Regardless of your numbers.
Right, because you're right. You gotta be so bottom of the barrel you don't get the truck
Mhm.
because you're gonna adjust your spend. Okay, fine. If you're already on the profit first, we had Mike. We were very thankful to have him on an episode of the podcast.
Can I say one thing here in a second?
year ago. Yeah, I want to hear about his fire. I want to hear about him firing his first guy though. That was my next.
Yeah, I do too. But
Oh.
I just want to tell him one thing. So in 2019, Amazon had a huge plan to retrofit all their warehouses, right? It was such a big operation that in 2020 they paid $0 in taxes. They made $1 trillion, but they also lost $1 trillion. That's what they said, or whatever. That's a lot of money, right?
Yep.
Now, why they do that? The pandemic was hitting hard and all this stuff was happening. It's because they never look at current year when it comes to making decisions. They think long term. So the here and now may say, hey, this is a bad idea. But what is 5 years from now? What is 2 years from now?
Mhm.
My point is,
Mhm.
we grew every year, no matter what our numbers, loosely, but no matter what our numbers were doing. Sometimes we actually still bought a new vehicle when we were actually down personnel. Now you're like, well, why would you do that? No one's driving it. Well, that's right. But our plan was by this time in this year, like this is what we needed to do. The key is not growing and then not growing. The key is don't grow too fast. Because in this business, man, you will grow. I guarantee it. If you're already doing the right stuff.
Yep.
I'm just letting you know, my first year in business, I did a lot of experimenting to where my second year in business, I was like, okay, now I know what not to do. My biggest takeaway from my first year was now I know what not to do. Right.
Mhm.
But having seen this now and talking to you, I'm going to tell you right now, your second year could be growth year into your third year, right? Growth, and stash your cash. That means when you buy a new truck, I know it may not make sense. Hey, man, we don't have that much cash in the bank. That's fine. Take out a loan. You need to take out a loan against that because worst case scenario, I work on worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, it's a bank's money. It's not my money. That's just how I look at things. So
Right.
I would say put that plan like you were saying, you have a plan in place and just keep to it regardless of some of the situations that may happen because you don't know what the summer looks like. Hell, tomorrow Biden could just be like, let's go to war with Texas. And then Texas is your new commanding pretty much state. It could just change like that. You never know. So
Right. No, I
you laugh.
appreciate that.
You laugh.
And that's
I just knew I knew we were gonna get there eventually.
but if you want to ask me about my first firing,
Yes, I want to
Yes.
hear
what
about
you got?
this.
Yes.
You don't have to say
Great-
names, obviously.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Great worker. Don't have a problem with this worker. Great salesman. The issue was when I hired him, it was my fault that I did not verify, even though he had a valid license and clean record, that he had a car. So that eventually becomes a problem. And again, no digs against him, but it became a problem of getting to work on time. It became a problem of, not showing up. And then, that just kind of led down the road, and an inch becomes a mile, and like, hey, can you take me home? These kind of things. And diesel fuel ain't cheap. And I'm not your Uber. But he was a great worker, and all that. And I'm not trying to sling mud across his name, but eventually I also had to realize that, hey, it makes no sense for me to keep him here, when I like to take care of my guys. So, I make sure during the wintertime they get their hours, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You find work to make sure they're there when you need them in spring.
Right, exactly. And if not, then I make sure to try to compensate. Well, I can't do that for two guys right now. We're getting to the point where I need to start making good business decisions and cut one. And my main guy, he's a rock star. The one that's the driver, he's a rock star.
Did you put this up in one of the Facebook groups over the weekend?
Did I put this in?
Yeah. Somebody else put this up in a Facebook group. Maybe it wasn't you. Actually, nothing about it.
Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah. So someone put up, hey, what do you do if someone no calls, no show? Like it's his best employee, good sales guy, whatever. Right. And he was a no call, no show on a Sunday. And they were asking like what to do with it. I can tell you that there's a simple rule that you're talking here, Dalton. This is something that people need to understand. Two rules that apply here. First one, the very tactical one. I do not care what our guys do before 7 a.m. or after 5 p.m., whatever time they punch out. I don't care what they do so long as it doesn't prevent them to come into work.
Right. Or
also, I'm responsible for you, right? When you punch in until you punch out, like we had a guy cut his hand today. Yep. Stay on the clock. Go get stitches if you need them. At least have someone that's not me look at it. It stopped bleeding. He was good to hook. But if the doctor says stitches, cool. The doctor says just take some ibuprofen, cool, whatever, right? He's my responsibility. His health, the welfare, and safety is my responsibility. When he leaves here, he's no longer my responsibility. Before you get to work, you're not my responsibility. And the challenge is a lot of employers, myself included, would make these exceptions for these employees. And those exceptions then start to bleed into the work performance.
And they hinder.
Right. And then you end up the old 80-20 rule. You spend 80% of your time on your 20% person versus that you're a rock star. If you'd just give him a little bit of love, he'll move mountains for you. So that's the first rule. Second rule here, when it comes to your business, and this is what I like what you said, I was very philanthropic when I started this business. I didn't pay myself. I was like, hey, I'm going to take care of everybody else before me. And then I met one of my buddies who has been done very well financially in his life. And he's like, Andy, the number one goal of your business is to make money, and that's it. Because when you have money, you can be more philanthropic. And when you have no money, none of these people will be here to save you. And I've lost a few businesses. I've lost a few businesses through the years, and let me tell you, a few people said, hey, sorry about you. Best of luck next time. No one was there to pick me up. So you made 100% the right decision by saying, you know what? I got to do what's best for business. This guy made it real simple on you. If you had two guys who were absolutely killing it, then that decision becomes complicated. He made it simple on you. Right. And you got to do
you have to
the business.
Yeah, you have to look at that because, man, I employed a lot of people when I was in junk removal. Like, every day you would think it's like a new person. But what I'll tell you is what I learned, the people I gave second chances to ultimately were the only ones that burned me more than once.
Yep.
And it was always my soft spot was the veteran, the infantryman who got out and he's like, look, man, I'm a solid worker. Just got to get my shit together. I don't know how. I'm like, dude, I'm right here. I hear you. And then next thing you know, they bail or they don't show up, whatever. And I would hire them back again. Oh, don't do it to me this time. And they still did it. When I started looking at this, right, there's a phrase, right? I will not treat you like just a number if you don't treat this like just a job, right? Because once you start treating this as just a job, you inadvertently become just a number. That's how you're acting. That's how you're performing.
You promoted yourself to a number.
Yeah. Right. And in the beginning, the company we worked with, right, our franchisor tried to make sure they push hard. The VA has a special workforce program, blah, blah, blah. The reason we didn't do it, we did it once, is because most of those people in that program do not have transportation. That means we'd have to pick them up. And like Andy said, The point of a business is to make money. And if I'm spending an hour in just drive time just to start working, that doesn't help me. The other thing is, to Andy's other point, there's a guy, he's local in Denton, great guy, huge veteran advocate. He's a vet himself. He had a sandwich shop, great food, but he put more emphasis on veteran advocacy than he did his own business. And ultimately, he didn't last 2 years. So you know what he did? Started another company. And his first slogan was, hey, man, we're going to make sure we donate 50% of every job to the veteran organization. It's like you didn't learn from the first time, man. Like, I get it and I appreciate it.
If you want to, great.
You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Great. You can donate $50,000 out of 100,000, right?
Yeah.
Or you can donate $50,000 on $1 million in profit. It's still 50 grand.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you rather help?
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And that's something actually of the 3 people that I legitly hired, put a job posting, interviewed the whole bit. The very first one that I fired actually was an Army guy. No hate to the Army guys. I'm just saying, like, we're military.
Fired many of them.
I think oftentimes coming from a civilian standpoint, they see us and they're like, oh, he's a veteran, he's great.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen some of the worst people ever
in the military
in uniform.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
We come from that lifestyle, so there's some definite dirtbags, surfing among them that are not good. But I'm trying to get better at that red flag-ometer because I really need to fire faster. But everything comes in time.
Well, I wouldn't even look at it like that. I wouldn't even look at like a red flag-ometer because think of it as you. Like, I'm a terrible employee, man. Like, I really am. Mm-hmm. And it's not because I'm a shitty worker. It's because I got spoiled by being a business owner. To now I'm like, if I don't want to do this, I'm not going to. Mm-hmm. But you have to, I don't know, Andy may disagree with me, but when you're hiring in the first and second year, it's really hard not to empathize with these people. It really is. It's going to get to you.
I'm 8 years into it and I'm still struggling.
Okay, yeah. People. Because there's still, it's still people, right? And
man, I don't
have
that
that connection, right?
No,
I'm just saying, like, you still look at it like, I know their situation.
I don't give a shit about that.
I know that
my struggle is I see better in them.
Yeah. Yes. You can't fix them. That's what sucks is, especially as a vet, we are good at fixing things in a way.
If a person's fucked up, run them through the process.
We see that and we're like,
by the other end.
It's this simple. Just do this. I mean, hell, my own brother fired. Well, he quit because he was going to get fired, but not show up on time. And his dad was part owner of the damn company. So not only did it make him look bad, now it made us look bad because now you have nepotism. Why does this guy keep getting all these second chances? Oh, it's because that's the owner's son. But then you started looking at it. Well, he just didn't care, and we can't make you care. Nope. So these guys that have these issues, 99.99% of the time, it's their personal life getting in the way of your business.
And the main thing was I didn't want it to affect my rock star because I'm letting that happen, and it's not fair to him. So.
No, the last person.
We'll have to go over fired, monthly reviews later, man, because that's another thing that you could really implement.
Oh man, that'd be a good topic. No,
it would.
The last person I fired was as soon as my number one player came to me, and she couldn't get her work done. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. When she started complaining, I'm like, okay, now the person that makes this place go round is getting frustrated with me and looking at me for answers. Now it's no longer a me issue and Andy issue. It's no longer a team issue. It's a organizational issue, and that much toxicity has got to go.
Right. Man, mine was Paul.
I know you're right. I know.
Like
I
Dalton,
remember
my first full-time hire. He was my first full-time hire, and hired him at $13 an hour just to help. I even tried to get him a job because I didn't need full-time at the time. Then I needed him, so I was like, "Hey, I'll hire you on as full-time." Best worker ever. My problem, I pushed him into a leadership position that he was not ready for and that he ultimately didn't really have any interest in. He was a great worker, terrible leader. He was with us for 3 years. He was my operations manager. He ran the business, okay? He made my life easier until I get a 2 weeks notice handwritten in his truck. You can tell, chicken scratch, didn't give a shit. And I was like, where'd this come from? Like, I'm pretty much making this business to where you can have anything you want. But he started his own junk removal business behind our backs. And that's what he wanted to do. Now, what's the moral of the story? No, you can't prevent that. If anything, it's a compliment to me.
Yeah.
But what I learned was I put him where I wanted him, not where he was best at. And that's what screwed me in the end because, man, my next person, that his name is Augie. You met him, Andy.
Yeah,
Augie?
I knew Paul. I knew
Shit
Augie.
hot.
Yeah.
Dude, Augie was like, I wish I had him the entire time. Like, I would have doubled everything I did.
Is
don't
Paul
struggle with
is
the
Paul
person.
still around? Is Paul still around?
Dude, he's still slinging, man. He's still slinging junk himself.
One man operation.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably doing good. I don't know. He's good. Like I said, he's a great dude.
He's a good dude.
I missed. We did a lot of cool jobs together, but
he wanted a halt. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted a hump job.
Yeah.
He wanted to do more. Is Augie still working for your old business?
no, man, he quit about 3 months ago because he screwed up, man. I mean, when I left, I kind of teed it up for him, like, hey, the day I leave is the day you're the most experienced person in this business, and you can literally ask for anything, and you're going to get it because they can't afford to lose you. He waited about 8 months before asking for a raise. And ultimately at 8 months, if you just bought a business, you're kind of figuring out like, we can figure this out without you.
Yeah.
So
month one, you can get away with it because they don't know what to do without you.
Yeah. So he just didn't strike while the iron was hot and waited too long. And he stayed on for another 2 years, but ultimately his biggest raise was a $6,000 annual raise, which is nothing. So
$100 a month, nothing. All right, Dalton.
He should have been making more than me, obviously. He should have been making probably 6 figures by now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Dalton, what else with respect to time? What other questions you got for? We do Taylor. Put that down. We got to go over reviews one episode. Maybe next episode we don't have. I'll use I'll show people my review process. Casey, you can talk about yours.
I have 2 questions. One,
please.
Well, the second one I want you to ask about my company name, right? Yeah. And I can go into that. The first one though, something that I'm really trying to break into is for those that don't know, if they have Next Insurance, according to my man Tony Stubbs, the insurance guy, you're not covered for demolition. You're not.
Don't even get me started
on demolition.
Don't even get me started on Tony Stubbs. Tony Stubbs lives 20 minutes from me, and I got screwed out of a yes. I had to pay out of pocket because I had Tony Stubbs insurance, which did not cover me to do a lot of things.
Okay, I may have to talk with you offline about that.
Well, I mean, shit. Let me tell you something. You're a good Christian man. I'm a good honest man, right?
Affordable insurance is not the best coverage insurance. Just remember that.
Tony Stubbs is like the man in the junk rule space, and I had a situation go south, and I had a few insurance other people that audited his stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, this is not good. You are set up for failure."
You may want to talk about that more because a lot of people are riding that train.
Oh, I know. Wait till you have a claim. You're gonna come off that caboose real quick.
Well,
to your I'm not allowed to do demolition point.
Okay. All right. So technically, I'm supposed to be covered, right? It says it in the thing. Now I didn't know that, by the way. We were doing small demolition jobs, but really our main gross has been junk, and I love that. I love junk. Simple. It's profitable. It makes sense. We're in the slow time, so if I can get a week-long demolition job, I would love it. I wanted to ask you, Casey, or even you, Andy, which one can provide. What do I say to these builders, these contractors? Where do I find these guys? Because they're not at the networking meetings. They're on the job site. What do I do? Do I show up at the job site? Do I call the office phone? Because I've cold called, right? I've talked to them, but how do I sell
builders
them on me
and contractors? It's the easiest thing. I'll let Andy answer, but I have the easiest solution for that.
No, go with the easy solution. Don't go with me.
Okay, easiest solution, Dalton. All of the above, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, there you go.
LinkedIn.
I would say
LinkedIn.
Cold knock. Cold knock.
Yeah,
go to every convention. Here's the deal. They are at every home and garden show. If you have a home and garden show,
that depends on the builder, Andy. So for me, I don't mess with production builders.
No, remodeling. So we have the home remodeling show we just had it last weekend.
Okay, yeah.
We buy a booth there.
Restoration.
Yeah. We buy a booth there to walk around and talk to remodelers. That's it.
Huh.
Yeah. So if you want to get in front of them, here's the coolest part.
Yes, the answer is all the above.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the coolest part is
sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, so that's the coolest part is you don't have to sell yourself. You just have to figure out what is their pain point. And for a lot of these restoration companies, I would say probably maybe 70% have the those little van type deals, right? I forgot what they're called, but
Sprinter
Ford
vans.
or whatever. Yeah, Sprinter vans.
Sprinter vans.
Yeah, and their junk or debris that they have to do, they put it in there and then they have to hand unload. It's ridiculous. And the cool thing is your price is built into it.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
it's in a residential area.
Yep.
Right. And if you're in these neighborhoods, I don't know what Dayton's looking like, but if there's neighborhoods that are nice that can afford restoration companies to come in and remodel their shit, 9 times out of 10 they can't put a good dumpster in the driveway, or they have to go with some other company. So they'd rather just say, "Hey, can you do it same day?" And that's when you go and say, "Look, here's what I can do, man. Do the demo, put in a pile, I'll take it away." When you get in good with them, that's when you spring the whole, "Look, tell me what you want demoed. I'll demo and haul away." And now you're in the interior demo game. And the cool thing is their people can go do other shit.
So you would recommend kind of a job site cleanup model offer to them, and then beyond that, once you show them you're solid and they like you, you work.
And not not full job site cleanup, because there's no money in job site cleanup. It is debris removal, construction debris removal, haul away same day.
Not finish outs at all.
No, this is you set the expectation. Hey, put everything on a tarp. I'll show up at 4:00 that afternoon, and I'll load everything on the tarp on my trailer. That way, your guys don't have to mess with it. It's gone the next day. The homeowner's happy. No dumpster in the yard. You're not going to fuck around with like a bagster, like waste management bagsters. They have weight limits on them. You got to get them to the curb. All this other stuff, right? And then you pull your trailer tight to that pile. You hand pick it. You make good with them. Right, I do not do job site cleanup. The other thing is this is the best thing you do. Casey hit the nail on the head. Figure out what the greatest pain point is. I'm gonna teach you a real high speed, multi-step process to do it. Okay, you go there and you ask them what their biggest pain point is. That's it. That is the big. Yeah. That's it. And then anticipate all the pain points they might have. Like Casey just said, hey, you got a Sprinter van. Your guys are screwing around the last hour of the day, messing around with it. They got to put in the truck, and they got to go to the landfill, or they can't put their equipment in, or you got to make sweat. When they tell you their pain point, you have a solution.
That's when you get contractor pricing out. Like I was very strict with my contractor pricing. Hey, 3 jobs, or either 3 jobs or like a 1 big job. You can do the math, but that's when I would put you on special pricing, because now I want you to use me all the time, because you're doing most of the work. I'm just loading and then unloading.
And special pricing it doesn't have to be fantastic, right? If your regular quarter trailer is $249, special pricing $220. I mean, you're not giving away the farm. You're making it where you appreciate the relationship. Take whatever your customer acquisition cost is and cut it out, and that's your pricing, because they're a repeat customer. They're commercial. They're going to be consistently using you. You don't want to give them a reason to shop around.
Yeah, you want to make and you know what? And unpopular to some people out there who think they know what they're doing, the best investment is taking those motherfuckers out to lunch. I'm serious. Like
100%.
The owner, general manager, hey, what are you doing next Wednesday? Let's go to lunch. Let me buy you lunch. Let me take you out to lunch. The reason why is because now you got one-on-one time. Neither one of you are messing with your employees or the job. You can start talking about future. Don't talk about selling shit or money. Say, hey, look, where do you see your business in a year or two? Oh, that's cool. This is what my outlook looks like. Start to form this bond. Next thing you know, you have an ally in the small business world.
Yep.
That's good.
We can just keep fucking rolling, man. Holy shit.
That's good.
All right, let's get to I do have a hard stop in like 7 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta make some dinner. I'm hungry.
Yeah. All right. Tell us about the name, the logo, all the things, the this, the that, the everything.
Okay, cool. So Jireh isn't my last name. Jireh isn't my nickname, anything like that. For those of you out there who's listening, or you guys who read the Bible, in Genesis, this is a story of Abraham. So Abraham, who sacrificed his son Isaac, or was about to, he went up to the mountain to do so, and this was a reflection of what God the Father was going to do in sending Jesus, his son, to die for us. This was to be a reflection of that. And about when Abraham was about to plunge the knife into his son Isaac, God said, stop. He said, I know you're going to be faithful. You followed through. And there was a sacrificial ram that was stuck in a thicket that Abraham saw. So now Abraham doesn't have to sacrifice his son. So he pulls this ram out of the thicket, and he sacrifices it there to God. But as he goes to take the ram, he said, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah meaning God. Jehovah Jireh means God is my provider. And everything that I've gotten in this business all came from God. And every time someone asks that question as to what the name means, I get to share Jesus, which is my main purpose and goal.
See, this is what I like about your alignment, right? I was raised in the church. I'm not all about that life, not my thing. And yet now I'm interested, right? Now I find that interesting because we have some level of commonality. And the little adage, right? You wear your emotions in your sleeve, like you put it over your chest, right? Like this is why I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Hauling junk is what you do. Why you're on this earth is a whole other reason, right? So,
Absolutely.
and also to Casey's point, go sit down with people and have lunch with them, and go talk to them about you. The money will follow. The business will follow.
And just ask them
because they're
about
going to get
them.
behind you.
That's when you find out. Yeah, I mean, ask them. You don't have to be direct. Like, hey, what do you believe in? No, but hey, what got you into this business? Like, what made you want to be a business owner? Whatever. Those kind of questions lead into, hey, I have a platform to tell my story. And now you can share their story. It's one of those things. It's very relationship, whatever. Relationships drive any business. And I'm going to tell you this, we'll talk about this another time. There's a pyramid of relationships that I solely believe in. And I'm going to tell you right now, in order for all three levels to work, it all starts with relationship.
That's good.
All right. Well, we covered a lot today in a very short amount of time. We heard the origin story. We got the reason. So let's get to the big finish. Casey, we're going to start with you. Big finish, top takeaway from today's show.
I'm going to take this excerpt from a previous episode. Show, don't tell. What I mean by that is if you want something, if you want to do something, don't hope it's going to happen. Make it effing happen. Write it down. Make a plan. Is it going to be pretty? Hell no. But at least it's going to be started, right? The last thing you want to do is, 5 years gone by. Remember that time I hoped I could do this? Well, I can't wait to do it someday. No, dude, you want to be like, look, remember that time I thought this was my limit? Now look at me. So make a plan and adjust from there. But you have to write it down first.
I like it. Dalton, top takeaway from today.
My top takeaway, I have quite a few here, but let's see here. Put people where they are best, not where I think they belong, where it can help me the best. And then take more people out to lunch. That's a big one because I'm very good, I think, interpersonal. That's where I shine. So if I can take more people who have commonalities in business, that would be great. And I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this and to talk with me.
Yeah. My top takeaway is extremely tactical. I need to utilize tags on Jobber. Right? That's one of the things I love about. No, seriously, like that was it. Like I'm thinking, okay, yeah, like lunches, there's this. It's like, okay, what's the actual thing that I need to do? I need to utilize the tags on Jobber.
Tag it up, man. That's why it's there.
Like it's so like that is like it is so simple, stupid. Yep. I'm like, all right, yeah, you know what? I need to utilize this because I got a new operations guy and he's fucking hot shit, wicked smart. And it's like, what do I need to do to make his life simpler?
Just implement the tagging. You don't even have to.
I know that's it. That's correct. I got it right. Like I need to tag whatever. I just need to.
We'll sit down with your team and create the commonality tags.
Oh, well, correct. They're going to be marketing and or like when he's like, hey, I don't know where to take scrap. Cool. Type in scrap and then look on the map where all these places are. Like seriously, like in my head, because like this happened yesterday or last Friday. He's like, oh, we're gonna take it to this scrap here. And I go, no, there's another scrap here like 6 blocks away. And I'm like in my head, I'm like, how do you not know that? And it's like, well, how do you not know that? Because I didn't teach you. I didn't make the information readily accessible. He has a list of all the scrap yards. They don't have addresses on them, right? Like memorization isn't the plan. So there you go.
Right.
All right, utilize tags. Bubba said, what did show grow? What was it?
Show, don't tell.
Show, don't tell. I love that. That's a good line. And Dalton's going to go in and lean in on himself and go to lunches and be who he is. Stick with that. I guess the last thing is, you know what? Junk removal is alive and well, and that is good to hear because we hear about the naysayers and the woes, and it was a down year last year. No, Dalton went out and achieved anyway. So good on you, Dalton. Thank you to our audience and the people that stuck around for the live. I'm Andy. He's Casey. Dalton was our guest, and we will see you next week on another amazing episode of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. Dalton, stick around for a minute to make sure all the things work. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Tap subscribe or follow to get the latest episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review and tell a friend to listen.